All right. We can think about it. Just think about it as you're going here. Let me see. hltva.org. I guess you know what? I'll put this guy there. That's really one of the only people I can think of, right? Because if we're going to just discuss French in general.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, we could even put, well, yeah, if we're talking French up there, but.
Yeah, right. If the French will just be a separate discussion going both ways. So, okay. That works. All right. I'm happy with it. All right. That's good. Say something real quick just so I can get another mic check.
Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Coming in clear.
Either I'm super loud today or you're quiet. Let's see. Could be both. Let's see. Hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. All right. Now say something now.
Testing, testing, testing. Coming in clear.
I think it was just my mic was closer than normal or something. All right. You ready?
Yep.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Jordan Nothing Go with a Cloud9, and you're listening to TCR.
Oh, I didn't do the intro, did I? It was a test run. Welcome to episode 245 of the Center Ring Esports Podcast. You're in luck because this is going to be the best episode ever. We have a hefty Yikes of the week, maybe the first time ever. We have a clean sweep from one game. Call of Duty, clean sweep Yikes of the week. So we got plenty to get to there. And we talked about it last episode. We're brave enough to do it this episode. The Counter-Strike Hall of Fame CSGO era. We're going to discuss it. Anuj and I are going to break down some ground rules and see who gets in the first round of the official Counter-Strike Hall of Fame, brought to you by TCR. But before we do that, I got to tell you about my personal Hall of Fame. My best esports clothing line Hall of Fame. You guessed it, it's Ultimate. They deserve to be in any Hall of Fame, first of all. The NFL Hall of Fame, does it make sense? Doesn't need to, because when you're the best clothing line on the planet, you deserve it all. And that's Alt for you. Go to altesports.com. You can purchase the 101 Burglars hoodie. Maybe Hiko can have it now. Maybe we'll send Hiko 101 Burglars now that he's on the 100 Thieves, even though there's no correlation whatsoever. You can find them at Ultimate on Twitter. They also work with teams like CLG, E-United. I hear there are some other teams in the works. I can't really say anything inside information, but per sources, they will be working with other teams coming up shortly in the future. So keep an eye at Ultimate on Twitter. Go buy their merch. Tell them TCR sent you. ultimateesports.gg.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Jordan Nothing Go with a Cloud9, and you're listening to TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Yes, this is episode 245, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date is June 7th, 2020. The time, 9:08 p.m. Central Time. My name is Tim. Hello, how are you? Alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up?
Tim, I dressed for the occasion today. I got my Jordan goat tee on to celebrate the Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame edition. I'm excited for today.
Is he in the Hall of Fame? I didn't know.
I hear he was a first ballot.
Some
like
controversy
some of our
there.
Lucky inductees today.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we'll get to that in a moment. But yes, we're brave enough. We're honestly the only ones in the industry brave enough to tackle the discussion of the Counter-Strike Hall of Fame. So someone's got to do it. We'll bear that cross. But before we do, make sure you follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. Our website is tcr.gg. I think I said altesports.gg. Their website is altesports.com. Ours is tcr.gg. Don't get them mixed up. Our website has links to our YouTube, Discord. Join the conversation there. We have a consistent group of Valorant players at the moment. And considering it's a free-to-play game, you have no excuse. And we have listeners of all skill levels. And when I say all skill levels, I mean all skill levels that hop in. We have we have pros that listen to the podcast. We have listeners that have turned to be competing on a team. We have listeners that look at the ground when they run. So don't feel scared. It's all over the place on these community nights. So be sure and join it and hit us up in the Discord, and typically always can at least get a 5-stat going. So
we had some good 10-mans there during the beta. So hopefully
yeah, I'm looking forward to
again.
I won't lie. I'm 100% WoW mode at the moment. Like, I can't shake it. It's like I'm back.
It really is like crack, dude.
I mean, I'm
telling you. Like we hop back in to casually do it, and now we're out here grinding Mythic 15s and going all in and having a good time, and it's been fun. So if you're playing that, we would also love to have your company there as well too.
Yes, yeah. If you're on WoW, definitely hit us up. We play Horde. What server?
Ner'zhul.
Ner'zhul. Not like that matters a whole lot nowadays, but if you cared, that's the server we're on. We again have a pretty decent group there that we're constantly running battlegrounds or mythics or dungeons, or you want to go mount hunting or whatever, transmog hunting. Typically we're got someone willing to do it with you. So got a lot of time to kill for now. For now. You are on baby watch.
It's happening. Like it's actually happening. I'm telling you, dude, I got like first day of school kind of butterflies. I almost feel like Kelly and I were talking about this, and it was like, it feels like we're going on a really big vacation, like when we went to Italy or something, and we kind of know what to expect, but we're really not ready for it until we're there. Like you don't know how you're gonna feel after you get there.
Yeah,
kind of hope it all goes well.
I feel that.
Like a lot of anticipation building right now. So we're not too far away. We're like 10 days out.
That's crazy. Yeah. And it could happen any moment. Like you're just 10 days out from being like, for sure, the baby's, it's
coming at that point. Right. Yeah.
But now it could happen at any moment. Like we could be in the middle of this show. Now, I know I don't have to tell you this, but you tell her to wait.
Well, no, I'll get her an Uber. I can do that from my phone.
Just set that up for right now.
Yeah, I'll pay for the premium service, dude.
Maybe if it happens on a show night, we do the first ever Twitch baby birth stream. We could do it live.
IRL action. Yeah, she would love that. No, she would love that.
Put that up on the phone. How has that not happened yet?
Can you imagine? She would leave me.
Out of all the stupid crap we see on Twitch, how has a baby birth not been one of them?
Oh, shoot, dude. With everything that's going on, you're about to see no VODs on Twitch anymore.
Yeah, that's this is why we use copyright free music on the show, so we don't get smacked or something like that. But yeah, that's for popular streamers to worry about, not us. Not us. Joke's on you guys now. But let's get into the show because we have a pretty heavy topic to get to with the CS Hall of Fame. But before we do that, we do have Yikes of the Week. It is Monday, so that means we have an entire week's worth of Yikes. And like I said in the intro, I think it's the first time ever we have a clean sweep. Call of Duty / Activision / CDL, whatever you want to link them up together, it's all the same to me. Have swept the board. It's unbelievable how it's just like they had an off week. They delayed the tournament, obviously for good reasons. But then within that off week, it's just they somehow, like, you're off. You have the day off. You just don't do anything, and you won't show up on Yikes of the Week. But here we are. So I'll let you go through your first Yikes.
So unfortunately, this team is kind of underperformed throughout the year, but this is going back to Seattle Surge. They made a statement, Tim. Their coach put out a statement regarding Ian Enable. Enable was recently benched, and then there was that whole fiasco in the last tournament where they started practicing with him. They were going to use him in the tournament. Things went bad a little early, and then they pulled him and brought in the backup, like basically immediately. And Enable is a veteran of the game. Again, he's like a championship winner. He's been around the block, like kind of should show a little bit more respect here, I think, than they have shown, and how quick they had that leash on him there. Well, they put out a statement announcing Enable has been benched for the rest of the year, followed up by the new addition to the team, Proto, who's being added onto the team. I just thought it was a little odd that they kind of had to announce that he's being benched again. Like, you already benched him.
Yeah, it was also weird because this was like right after Karma announced that he retired, right? So it's like, It's almost like they felt, hey, we have to say something because public perception is Enable's going to play. But it was a very, you don't make announcements. They could have just made the
Proto announcement, right? That he was joining the team.
And this is what you do, okay? And this was like, what org? We had him in Yikes of the Week a long time ago, where the org did a Twitter announcement that someone was cut, but it was like they posted a banner of them. Typically, that you would see is if you signed someone, but it was like so and so cut.
That was for CSGO, wasn't it?
I think so. But this is the same vibe. You don't make an announcement that someone is benched. You just make the announcement that so and so is starting, and at the tail end of that announcement is, say, what's his name, Protos?
Yeah.
Protos is joining the starting roster. We're super excited to have him. At this time, Enable will be taking a step back on the bench, but also supporting the team, something like that. And it's like, oh, okay, this is nice. But to make like a 2-paragraph statement, it's like, bro, we know.
A 2-paragraph statement for somebody that's already been sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
Like, the guy's already been on the bench, right? So there's no need to, like,
Enable sitting here like, what do you mean?
And it would have been pretty clear, hey, this guy is coming in to start. Like, people would have seen that, or hell, they would have seen it in the first tournament when he started. But to throw it out there, I just thought it was in poor taste and, unfortunate for Enable. They also said in the letter that he will be supporting the team on a day-to-day basis. Please. Okay, this guy is like going to be checked out.
He's playing Warzone right now.
Yeah.
He's playing Warzone. He's hitting up Karma right now, asking if he wants to make a challenger team.
Along with Sensor.
My Yikes of the Week, again, from Activision here. Kind of hard to believe. And now, I don't like when this happens in Yikes of the Week because I feel like you shouldn't like slap someone's hand for when they're doing something, right? Kind of like if someone says something stupid, but then they apologize for it, and then people get mad that you apologize. Well, look, what do you want, right? It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. This is one of those situations, but I am going to say it's a yikes because it's been a situation since day one. And again, we are about, what would you say, Anuj, 3 months before this game's life cycle is dead? Yeah. Typically October, around that time. So Activision has finally given just the pros, just the professionals, private 60 hertz servers to practice on. Now, this is, of course, for those who don't know, because in this version of CoD and Modern Warfare, if you're playing a custom room, not one that is stretched across with millions of people trying to get on servers and here and there. A custom room. You were playing on 12 hertz. Like 12 tick servers. Keep
Which
in
is
mind,
like just
people on Counter-Strike bitch about, what, 64?
64 tick, yeah.
So people on Counter-Strike saying they can't live with 64. People on Call of Duty are playing with 12. Honestly embarrassing.
It's just you feel cheated, right? Like you feel a little cheated that like you're buying a AAA game from somebody that's been doing this for years, and they know they're gonna get piled on for releasing that. Like it's almost like just, hey, we don't care. You're gonna buy this game regardless. You're going to play this game regardless of the state that we release it in, because it's Call of Duty. Whatever they have timelines and deadlines to hit. But like to see them make these little changes and they keep accommodating the pros, I'm glad they're doing that. The pros need to be playing on a better setup. It just sucks that it's like across the board. You can't do that for everybody. I just, again, it's just one of those annoying things because they have the ability to do it. They have the money to do it. Look at what they're making off of like skins, like how much they charge for those skin packs. And, some of them do give slight advantages with the tracer rounds and things like that. So, you just kind of feel bad for the average player because these people were spending $60 on a game. You're generally buying some cosmetics. Oh, guess what? There's expansion packs, not in this one necessarily, but in general,
Right.
you're having to add on money that way. So you just feel like gypped as a buyer.
And then I know there was one more, but you deleted it. Did you want to go over that last one?
Because I'm trying to see, like, is it confirmed that happened? Because I tried to just look it up again.
I
to, like,
saw a
find
bunch of
some
pros tweet it out, so I assume it's confirmed.
Okay, so we'll run with it because I was trying to look up and find an actual source that was like going through that, and I'm not seeing much on it. We'll throw it in there as a proactive yikes though, just in case. So rumors are that the spawns have changed in the game now, and I know the spawns were kind of an issue to begin with, but this was not something that was like kind of announced, and it was almost like a hidden type update that came out, and the players started noticing it. We started seeing a lot of activity on Twitter around it. But yeah, I mean, for the spawns to change mid-game, kind of unannounced, I think is a little bit of a joke, especially the timing. Like, have they announced when they're doing Minnesota? Did they just push it back a week?
I think it's just a week. I think it's, this upcoming weekend.
So to me, that's really tough because so much of this is based on like timing, right? Like where you throw your nades, like how long into your sprint should you toss your nades to hit a certain spot, getting to an angle to line yourself up. Like, is it changing it just a little bit? How the rotations are going to change if you capture a flag, especially with a stupid game mode like domination. Like those are crucial things to know. So if that's happened and that's the case, like again, timing, like it's just timing is bad. You could have waited for a bye week or something. If they've built in one, if they haven't, then you should be working with the pros on this. It should never come as a surprise to them. Rumors are Treyarch's already communicating with the Call of Duty pros for next year's game. Like they're consulting them on how the game should be because they see a lot of this negativity and they're getting ahead of it. And so that's a developer that understands the situation that you're in. Right now, Modern Warfare I like the game. I do like it. But there's so many flaws.
There's a lot more negatives than positives for me. And the sad thing is you like the game because of Warzone, which is why everyone likes the game. That's all you see. Hell, even the league doesn't even promote their actual league anymore. They promote their players playing Warzone all the time.
Yeah.
It's like there's an issue. There's an issue here when Warzone is getting more pub and more talk about. It's almost like the league is just a side effect so you can have pros, and then you can say, hey, look, these pros are playing Warzone. Go watch them play Warzone. Ignore the fact that they're professionals.
The MP, I would have enjoyed multiplayer more because I like the gameplay a lot. I hate the maps.
The maps are terrible.
Like, I absolutely hate the maps in the game. And so for me, it's just a cluster. There's just so many camping spots. We're not playing at a high level, competitive level where you kind of know where people are going to be. Like it's a lot campier in the games that we're generally playing in, and the map is like built for them. I feel like it's also, I mean,
we'll save it for e-news, but like with Karma retiring, even in his like retirement tweet speech, whatever, pretty much called it out that this COD Modern Warfare sucks, and that's half the reason he's retiring is because he feels bad. He said he feels bad for anyone who still has to play the game. Like, yikes! Not
taking a couple shots on your way out.
Yeah, like not very often. Typical players just retire and say, "Hey, thanks for the memories. It's my time." No, he's like retiring and just giving the bird, walking out the door. Like it's just hostile. It just seems like such a hostile scene to be a part of when it comes to pros and the developers, you know?
Yeah.
Just seems like every time they're always on the different page, but whatever. Congratulations, though, if Activision wants to hang their hat on something. You had a clean sweep of Yikes of the Week. So,
you did.
Congratulations. First time ever. Let's get into the big one here, though. The Counter-Strike Hall of Fame. But before we do that, you need to go to the Betting Hall of Fame, which is Thrive Fantasy. You download Thrive Fantasy. It will be your daily fantasy sports app for prop bets. You enter the code TCR upon sign up, and then you will get an instant $10 match for your first $10 deposit. I ran the numbers. That's $20. You would get at least $20. You could turn that around. Do you know how many times in my little gambling pool of money I've been down to $20 and I'm like, I'm never getting it back. I'm never getting it. One weekend later, I'm up like $400. So it's possible. Dreams do come true. Thrive Fantasy. Enter the code again. TCR at sign up. All right. So Anuj, let's get into this because we talked about it last episode. We brought it up.
We move quick around here.
I mean, we just, you know how it goes. The Counter-Strike Hall of Fame. I forget how this got brought up. I think it's like with Olafmeister stepping back. We said future Hall of Fame, and then we were like, "There's not one." So we decided. We did the paperwork. We filed. We met with the lawyers. I spoke with the official Esports World Committee that was just announced last week. So I said, guys, I hear that you are the official committee, and I just want to be the official Counter-Strike Hall of Fame. And they were like, well, it seems like you met the requirements, so easy enough. And I was like, damn, okay, fine. So
paperwork signed.
The paperwork's done. So here's your official inauguration for the Counter-Strike Hall of Fame. Now, for this specific show, we're only discussing the CSGO era. And furthermore, in a future episode, we'll discuss 1.6. I don't know if purists will get upset, but to me, Condition Zero and Source are kind of like dead games. I feel like the transition, like you had players drop off from 1.6 to go. In between, though, you kind of just had all the same players. So it's like...
In Condition Zero, no.
Like I mean, come on. Let's be real. Like, if you're upset about that, you're just being a tryhard for Counter-Strike at that point.
We think it's important to acknowledge those two games in particular for the obvious reasons. Like, they're just the most historic versions of Counter-Strike. And so for us, that's good enough.
Yeah. So let's get over some stipulations, some ground rules here. There's not a set number of players. Anuj and I are going to discuss it. We kind of each have our own lists and combined them together and everything. There's not necessarily going to be a set number of players from each one that we're going to put in. And this is just the first round. So if they don't get in this time, maybe next time we bring this up, they're still in the voting, right? Much like a normal Hall of Fame committee, like with the football or NFL or baseball, hockey, whatever. You're never just out. I think some have rules, but besides the point, you're never officially out. You can always try again next time. So not an official number. We're going to try to shoot for like four to six players, right? If we can make a case for 4 to 6, great. We want them to be retired, in quotes, in our eyes. So some of these guys, and you know, you'll know, right? We all kind of know those players that they're no longer on like their starting.
Their prime is way past them at this point.
They're no longer in their prime. They're playing for tier 3 teams. You don't see them. They're not qualifying for any majors anytime soon, but they're still playing. But let's be real. We all know you're just playing because that's what you do, right? But for the most part, your glory days of CS are behind you. So we'll talk about that more specifically when we get into players. So I think, is that it? Is that all? We kind of retired in our eyes, right? Retired
in our eyes, and there's no set number, although we would like to have a handful from each side for CSGO and 1.6.
Yep. Not, and we'll maybe do this once a year. Who knows? We'll see, right? Whenever
if there's another pandemic, we might bring it out in 6 months again.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? They're saying Corona could happen again in the fall. We might be stretching for more topics in the fall. You might be seeing a lot more people get into the Hall of Fame. But that's the beauty of it. We're the official one. So it's ever growing. Our listeners can also be a part of the vote, right? If you disagree with us, let us know. We can always make a case for your player. If we bring them up and you're like, no, you guys are crazy, they deserve to be in, give us your case, right? Fight for your guy, and then, we can always change the rules. So,
with that being said, we do have a list of players. Tim mentioned earlier, like, well, you're never really out, right? Like, you're never really out.
Yeah.
But there are some that we're going to say, you don't have to send in an application every year. We're going to save you a little bit of time.
We'll call you.
We'll call you. If something changes in our eyes, we'll call you.
Now.
But for now, take a back seat.
I will say, if you are one of those players, coming on the show and retweeting, I mean, that puts you up a tier. That we can be bought.
You almost are an automatic in at that point. Okay?
Any guest of the show, Hall of Fame.
We're leading with Drone in the Hall of Fame. So that
Drone
should tell you
something.
Drone
is in the CS Hall of Fame. No. But maybe. We'll at least put him on the maybe list. So let's get into some of this then. Kind of discussing here, where did you want to start? Do you want to start with the maybes? Do you want to start with the no's?
Let's kind of bounce our way around. I think let's start with like an obvious in. Somebody that we think fits the bill for what we're looking for, and there shouldn't be much conversation around them other than their achievements.
All right, so my first on my list when I thought of Hall of Fame worthy, he's kind of the guy who started this conversation to begin with, is Olafmeister. I think between his time on Fnatic, which is really where he's earned his spot for the Hall of Fame, like that Fnatic dynasty, and even when he's been on FaZe, no, he hasn't won a major, but he's been to the major finals, right? He lost in Boston to Cloud9. I feel like that has earned him a spot. Also, I think just though he's been around, like his longevity to me also speaks volume when it comes to a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, like top 20 players several times. He actually had the number 1 honor in 2015. 2-time major winner, so he didn't get that like third major, which I think would have made him, up for debate as maybe the best player of all time if you could have got that third major. But with him, what we see in retirement mode, he was definitely an obvious in. Like, he was a major MVP. He was a playmaker. Like, Olaf made some of the sickest plays, in just major history, right? And you think of just the iconic one that comes to mind of him burning in the Molly on Cash. It's immortalized within the game. I think that's a good clue to getting in.
He's one of 6 players to attend every single major. So again, bringing up the longevity of it all, like it just shows you how long.
Wasn't he also, Tim, the only player that was also a legend for every major? Except so that ended in Berlin.
Yeah, I was gonna say
he was a legend.
That ended
in
recently.
Every major prior to that, though. Yeah. And so that's also a stat where when you were the only one whose name could be put into that again up until the last major. For them, that's a true testament to your greatness. They were third in a handful of majors. They were second a few times. Obviously, the the biggest loss being against the Cloud9 team in Boston, like that really would have capped off his career, I think, to go out that way. But yeah, Olaf, definite in, great player. If we don't see him again, really just one of the best of our time.
So there's one that is in, for sure. I think we have both. And again, I guess if the listeners really disagree, I would love to hear your opinion on more of the ones that we think that are in. I'm going to then flip the page and go to a no. This is
Okay.
a recently official retired player. Even though he hasn't played Counter-Strike professionally in over a year, just a little over a year. The writing's on the wall that he's going to switch to Valorant pretty much since day one of the closed beta. And that's Hiko. For what he's done in Counter-Strike, everyone knows him, right? He's made some nutty plays, and I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Pretty Good. But when it comes to the Hall of Fame, you need a little bit more than popularity to get in. Hiko has the popularity. He's been on some historic rosters, especially if you're looking at NA. He would be on the NA Hall of Fame. If we were just doing an NA CS Hall of Fame, sure. I think Hiko would make that Hall of Fame. But when you're looking at the big boys, I don't think he cracks the list for me, at least this time around.
Yeah, I think he would fall into the no for me also. Like unfortunately for him, he was only a top 20 player once, and that was really in the first full year the game was live in 2013. He also, he had his career on Cloud9 is really hyped up, but he was really there for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Like his stake was kind of made on those liquid rosters, but really that was because Simple, came in and it kind of blew up the way it did, and they were, second in the Cologne major, I think third in Columbus, the one that you attended down there. And so for me, Hiko has done so much for NA. Like he's done a lot, and I think that's where his fight to be in the Hall of Fame would be, is more as a contributor to the NA Counter-Strike scene. But in terms of skins on the wall, he falls a little short right now. And yeah, I think he would be on the no list for me too.
And I don't think you have to have a major to be considered in the Hall of Fame. I mean, we see it across the board with a lot of other sports where you have a lot of non-finalists, right? Not a lot. You don't have to win the Stanley Cup to be in it. You don't have to win the Super Bowl to be considered the best, or at least in the Hall of Fame eyes, right? So we do have some, like, let's talk about him maybe. Let's look at Guardian, right? I think that would be a perfect transition into a player that, just like Hiko, does not have the major under his belt, has had a very shaky career, at least towards the end of it, right? Very questionable towards the end. He did not go out on top. I think we can all say that. But where are your thoughts on with Guardian then into the Hall of Fame?
So to me, Guardian will find his way in, because I have a pretty heavy stake in our committee. So I think at some point, Guardian finds his way to wearing, call it the gold jacket. Gold jacket, can we say that? Is that copyrighted?
Yeah, well, we could do it.
Wearing the jacket. I think he finds his way in, though. I mean, I think for him, several failures, unfortunately, in major finals, but they were there. They were competing. He was the best opper in EU for a long time. And in that position, to me, although it's not the quarterback, because that's almost more like the IGL.
We'll do gold bomber jackets.
I like that. That would be clean.
And we'll have Alt make them. Alt will make gold bomber jackets.
I like it. That sounds boss. So that'll be our Hall of Fame edition. But I think Guardian does find his way in. I think he was too crucial to a team that was on the cusp of winning several majors. They ran into other dynasties at the time, right? Like it's not like they were losing to like some scrub teams. For him, he was consistently a top 20 player via HLTV rankings. So,
and let's not forget,
Guardian, I just have good memories of Guardian playing. Like I don't think of very many bad games outside of take away the last year.
I think the Boston Major, losing the Boston Major, I think broke Guardian because he played out of his mind. Should have been the MVP. He really honestly should have been the MVP for that major. But I think it went to Tarek. But he should have been the
I
MVP.
agree with you.
I
Yeah.
think he played out of his mind for that major. I think the only reason FaZe was as close as they were is because of Guardian. And I think once they lost, it broke them. Because really, ever since then, which was what, January 2018? Which
Yeah.
sounds about right. You know, the last year or two, he's just been kind of on that fence of
Just
not
hasn't been the
good,
same.
on the bench, being subbed in at other teams. Like, he's just hasn't been the Guardian that you all remember. So, I don't know. Like I said, I think maybe right now
That's
he's a
such
maybe.
That's a short part of his career. But yeah, I think right now, if we were doing like just our initial inductees, again, I know we say majors are not a requirement, but it's gonna play a role in my mind for this first introduction into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like I really want it to be like what we would consider legendary names in the game. I think Guardian is on the cusp of that. He might eventually get our vote. I think he does at some point, though. I really believe it because he was too good of a player for too long to find his to not find his way in.
All right. So let me riddle you this, because I have another player then on my list that was a maybe, and that's Keo. So majors don't mean we said majors don't mean everything on the list. Now, if you're ever at a bar and for whatever reason you're just talking to a girl who loves CS and you want to like play a game with her, just make a bet to see if she knew that Kiyoshima has 2 majors under his belt. And I bet you by the end of it, you would win that game, because I think people forget Kiyoshima Anuj has 2 majors under his belt. The dude has gotten little to no respect in the CS scene. He's been bounced around from team to team. Currently plays for Heretics, but again, this is retired in our eyes. He's retired. He's not signing on with any top team anytime soon, I would have to imagine. In fact, there's talks that he might be going over to Valorant. So there you have it.
Although Heretics is like 23 in the rankings right now, so
They're
they're
not
not
terrible, but
I know what you mean. Yeah, in our eyes, he's probably not getting back onto a top team. To me, I had him on the no list. Like I didn't really consider him to be in this conversation, honestly. He's been on some amazing teams. Yes, he's a 2 times winner. But not every team has 5 all-stars. Like some people are naturally going to be more support type players, than others. And I don't think of him as ever being the hard carry at any point, the leader, like the IGL in that sense at any point. He played in more of a support type role. His numbers were never spectacular, although he was top 20 one time. He's not somebody that I would really have in the conversation. So for me, I would say like, hey, you could probably stop applying, because it can be really hard for me to change my mind on like, oh, he would eventually get my vote.
yeah, I agree with you in the sense of, and this is the same way when I look at like the Astralis roster now, right? You have 4 guys on that team who have 4 majors. Magisk has 3. I think you could make an argument that all 5 could possibly be in the Hall of Fame at one point in time. But like you said, someone's got to be the 6th man, right? Someone's got to be the guy who carries kind of the load on the bottom. You can't all be the Jordans of the team.
You can have a couple, right? Like you can have the Jordan Pippen combo, and both of them are getting in for sure. But it's very rare that you sit back and say, hey, all 5 are going to get in. I think in the Astralis case, Magisk is still, it's going to be hard for him because he came into a team that was already a dominant team. Now he's made them better, I think. Like I do think that was a very tough task. And I believe was he not the major MVP for them? He might have gotten the MVP even for one of those majors. But I think the other 4 all have outstanding cases to get in. Like Zipnix and Dupree, like both of these guys are legendary players. Obviously, a Device is a no-brainer, right? Like Device is in the day he calls it quits. We'll do a special show at that point just to induct him right there and then.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the few teams where I really see, hey, four could get in. Like four could legitimately get in from their roster. And hell, if Magist keeps going, it could be five. Like we could see the first clean sweep, and that's because of the dynasty they're creating. They've won 4 majors, and they're not done. They're still going to be one of the best teams for the next few years should they stick together. So could get a couple under their belt for them.
And to answer your question, yeah, Magist got the MVP at Katowice 2019.
Yeah.
So 3-time major winner, 1-time major MVP. You make a strong case, right? Obviously, he's still an active player, so he's still got a lot of miles ahead of him. 22 years old, which is nuts. That's the other thing with Keo, right? Is he's 25. So you got to think he did that to win those 2 majors and everything, he did that super early on his career.
I got a couple I want to run by you, Tim.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be more in your wheelhouse then, is I want to talk a little bit of Cloud9 CS. Because obviously there are still millions of Cloud9 fans out there, and they want to know about their players. And I want to talk about really not so much the major winning team, because I think all of those guys have a little bit to go to kind of get onto the list. But I want to talk about the ones that are unfortunately no longer with us. Rest in peace. And let's go with Shroud, Nothing, and Skadoodle. All 3 of these guys are no longer active, so they're all eligible for that gold bomber jacket today. Should we decide to put them in? Do you think any of them get our vote today to get in?
Oh, Nooch. How I wish your wife would walk in right now saying she was having the baby so I didn't have to have this conversation. I'm going to take off my Cloud9 glasses.
Just in case.
Yep. No. I think when you're looking at the Cloud9 legacy, again, much like with Hiko, and you're right, I looked. Hiko was only on that team for like a couple of months. Like, what the hell? He did so much on that team for like just being on there for such a more time. But the NA side is so difficult to look at, right? Because given the fact that, spoiler alert, we're American, they're so impactful for the fans over here, right? But in the grand scheme of things, not that impactful. Shroud is, I think, a perfect example of that. Nothing's a little different because he's been, 1.6, and he might get in eventually, I think, just for what he's done to the game and being an ambassador and still being around it, right? But Shroud was, at one point in time, people were talking about like one of the best players in the world. He would make insane plays, whether or not it's because he forced it with the D-Eagle or not, or an op or whatever. But while I think Shroud was amazing while on Cloud9, he was nowhere near Hall of Fame, right? Cloud9 never even got to a majors final, I think, with Shroud, or made it very far in the major at all. Like, I remember there was a lot of disappointment in their win Shroud and nothing.
All group stage exits. For Shroud. I think they made one.
So again,
one advanced stage.
I think with these older guys coming from an NA team like Cloud9, is a lot of people remember the good times. They remember the crazy plays and the hype and the excitement of the potential, but they forget the letdown. I also think Shroud is like a little confusing because Shroud now is not what Shroud was back then. Like, Shroud now is a world-known name, being a streamer and sponsored by everyone, and everyone loves him. Back in the day, Shroud was a little quiet guy that didn't talk much at all.
It was just a Reddit highlight reel.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, Shroud to me was like a pretty obvious no. Like, there's no chance that he qualifies on this list.
Maybe the NA Hall of Fame. but not.
Yeah, like sure, if we want to do like an NA Hall of Fame, okay, he has a chance to get in there, but I don't even think that's like necessarily 100% guarantee unless we say personality is now part of this because he is the biggest name in NACS for like the last 5 years. Like there's been nobody more
Yeah.
popular than Shroud. I think Skadoodle is the trickiest one
Yeah.
of the bunch.
He's the
Because,
Pete Rose. He's the Pete Rose of the bunch because obviously he has that major, right? He was the NA player to achieve greatness from the Cloud9 roster, from that Cloud9 team that stuck around and everything there. And I think of like Skadoodle, Shroud, Nothing, like I would even say Freakazoid, like those guys that were on that roster for a long time that just never did anything.
yeah.
Skadoodle was the last one there to do it. So there's that. But then obviously he does have the scarlet letter of the iBuyPower behind him. Now he was never punished for it, but nonetheless, it's there.
To me, that's like that iBuyPower issue. You associate him with it, but because he wasn't charged, I'm putting that in quotes, okay, like charged of being involved, like I don't think we should hold that over his head as voters, right? Like I don't think we could sit there and be like, well, guilt by association, so you're out, you know.
Yeah.
It is a scar, small scar on his career.
Yeah.
I think another knock for him is he just wasn't consistently, like he only got into the top 20 once and it was at number 20, and that was not like the year that they won the major. However, I think Skadoodle will find his way in at some point, and I'll tell you why, Tim. I think the reason we find a way to get Skadoodle in is just like with other traditional sports, I got to compare people at your own position. And to me, Skadoodle was the number one opper in NA for several years. I think he was a top 2 to 3 opper in the world for a handful of those years.
Yeah, you could make the argument that for a lot of the reasons, like the fact that Cloud9 made it through as far as they did in a lot of these events was because of Skadoodle.
Yeah, for sure. Like even in the major, although he didn't, I think had he walked away with the MVP, it would have like solidified his spot into the Hall of Fame, maybe even today. But he was very pivotal. Pivotal. Wow, there we go. Pivotal. He was very pivotal in that Boston major. There's so many plays. I mean, you think of just the Inferno match alone.
Yeah.
That was the decider match. Like the guy sitting in the corner with the op and, in B, just holding his tiny little angle, jumps on the box and, kills Nico for, I think it's one of the overtime rounds. It was just insane. And he consistently did that. Like what Guardian was doing for FaZe during that time, Skadoodle was also, I thought, carrying Cloud9 to a certain extent. And so I think he finds his way in. Maybe not today, but I think he will. I think he belongs among the greats when it comes to CSGO history.
And I think for those who do get caught up on the whole iBuyPower thing, and it is, like Anuj said, it's a scar, right? You know who also had a scar? Harry Potter. And look how he ended up. So just think about that, voters. Okay, I'm just saying, if I had to make a case for my boy, there's that. The thing that also holds Skadoodle back today, he was not a personal guy whatsoever. Like, had he made himself a little bit more likable, then maybe, like, your heartstrings get tugged a little bit and you want to vote for him in for the inaugural time. But much like I was saying how Nothing could maybe get in one day for just being an ambassador of the game still to this day, Skadoodle was like the exact opposite, where he like wanted to almost like suck it back in to where no one ever brought up Counter-Strike and iBuyPower or anything from his past. So he like just shut everything down when it came to like speaking with the media and doing interviews and things like that.
Yeah, definitely not. Like, he was a fan favorite only because of his play. His personality was not something that ever really stood out. It kind of shows even now if you watch him stream. He's just a quiet, like, keeps to himself. Like it's not a bad thing. It's just, hey,
Yeah.
that's how he is,
Like I said,
right?
I think,
So
and even Cardinal says in Twitch chat here, which Cardinal is a voter. All of our listeners are voters. That summer 2015 Cloud9 was incredible with Ska, Shroud, Sean Garris, and Freak and nothing. And I think that's absolutely right. Like, that Cloud9 team is so difficult to talk about with the Hall of Fame because they were incredible. But
for a summer,
they just never really made it anywhere, right?
Yeah.
It's such a feel-good story, but just never did anything with it. So, yeah, it's just they don't make it. They make the Hall of pretty good. To me, if we want to kind of go back to a retired player that I think does get in, okay, and not necessarily because of his outrageous skill or anything like that, but Pasha. I think Pasha Biceps, in my opinion, should get in for this inaugural round of players. He has a major. Okay, he was part of Virtus Plow when they were just dominant, right? When they were known as Virtus Plow, not Virtus Premier, but Virtus Plow. And I think when you talk about being an ambassador of the game, you couldn't find anyone better than Pasha. I mean, still to this day, like, he is doing so much for the Polish side of CS. When Katowices are going, he's always there. He's always hyping up the crowd still.
The iconic photo of him sitting in Katowice this year with no fans.
Yeah.
Remember when it was canceled out, and he was the only one that really was allowed in the stadium, and he was sitting solo. But I 100% agree with you.
Yep.
I mean, his contributions to Counter-Strike go well beyond the game of Counter-Strike. What he's done for the Polish scene, the EU scene, he's always been like a very stand-up individual, right? Like he was always very respectful to the players. In his play was something where he had to change the way he played almost, I felt like, several times throughout his VP career. And not only did he get that major, he was the MVP of that major in his hometown. So kind of legendary in itself just to win a major in Katowice for them.
Mm-hmm.
But although maybe stats will not say that he was, top 5 as an AWPer or, whatever. Stats may not necessarily favor him 100%.
Like you talk about some of these guys like Olfmeister, right? You listed a number of plays that we could list off the top of our head. Skadoodle, you could tell you exactly some plays. Pasha doesn't have that to me. Like, there's so much you think about Pasha before you even get to his plays, which I think is okay, right? When you're going into the Hall of Fame. I don't think you have to have memorable plays. And I'm sure he does. It's just, like I said, it's just, there's a lot before that I think about.
Yeah, and 5 third-place finishes in the majors, 1 second-place finish. Obviously, we talked about the 1 win that they had. He was ranked number 3 in 2014. He was number 19 in 2013. So, he's been at the top of the boards, for a full year in a game that's only been out really since mid 2012. So it's not like the lifespan of this game is that long. He was a dominant player for most of those years, and his team was a winning team, and that's important. Like it's hard, to, and we can maybe even get into this next, but it's hard for me to think that it's like he accomplished what he needed to accomplish. He got to the top. He did it as one of the best players. He did it as the best player during their run, and he's an ambassador for the sport. Like, what better person to throw in to the Esports Hall of Fame or CSGO Hall of Fame than Pasha? So yeah, I would agree. He would get my nod.
All right. So far we do have 2, Olfmeister and Pasha, 100% in. Kind of recap, we talked some Hiko, old Cloud9 boys. None of those really quite make it yet. Maybe down the road, but at the moment, no. Where else did you want to take this then?
Oh, so before we get into a couple other of our yeses that we have here, I want to know what you think about the current crop of players that we have, right? Because it came to mind when I was talking about Pasha, that maybe, a winning team has some sort of effect on our vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's other players that don't have wins, don't have majors under their belt, but have been regarded as some of the best players for a handful of years, right? So do you have anyone that comes to mind that's an active player that needs to do a little bit more in your mind to get on the list, but is like they're right there. They're close, but they're not all the way in, as of today.
Yeah, when I think of that, right, I start at the top of the list. That's how, when I'm going from active players that I think, what do they have to do going forward? I go to the top of the list and then I'll start down. Okay? Because obviously, like, players like Zywoo, way too young to even really discuss it.
Yeah,
Like,
no, we can't.
He had an amazing rookie year, but the dude could do absolutely nothing the rest of his career for all we know. I'm thinking guys like Simple and Nico. They almost are like a 1A, 1B in this conversation, where if their careers ended today, I don't think they would go into the Hall of Fame at least the first or second time up. Because, yeah, you've been great, you've been dominant, but just never really... I mean, I would almost put Simple ahead of Nico, but for me, both of them have to do a little bit more.
Okay, so I'm 50-50 with you there. Okay, so Nico, I think, has to do a little bit more. I really believe that. Although he's been an amazing player. He's been number 2 and number 3 on the HLTV top 20 for 2 out of the 8 years of the game's lifespan, and he's been on the top 24 times. I don't think the skins are there, though, in terms of being on winning teams. Mouse Sports, to me, got better after Nico left. Nico on FaZe, although they did get that 1 second place finish, that was a heavy disappointment. They were huge favorites in my mind to win that major, especially when their opponent, was Cloud9, because that was a team that they kind of notoriously dominated in other events when they played them during that time frame. And so I think the rest is like a bunch of group stage exits, a couple of semifinals, but there's never been another finals appearance for him in a major. He's 23. So
they have more disappointment than I think Na'Vi does, right? Like, Na'Vi is kind of the bridesmaid, never the bride, where Nico's just get invited to the wedding, right?
Yeah, he's like a groomsman.
Yeah, he's
like
not even...
He's there. He has an important role.
You get an invite,
but he's not,
right?
Yeah.
But we're Simple, you're at least part of the wedding party.
So to me, Simple, I'm not going to lie, is an easy in. Like, if he was retired today, I wouldn't question it at all. He's been 1, 2, 8, 4 in the world rankings, for 4 years. And every time he's been ranked, it's been incredibly high. He's been 3rd at 3 different majors. He's been 2nd twice. He's done that with 2 different teams, one crossing, international waters to do it. And then, like, to him, a foreign land of being here in the US and doing that as a second language. I think he has become somewhat of an ambassador for the sport, in the sense of he turned around his bad boy shit tier image that he had for so long and became the good guy. Right now, he still said some stuff that's like pretty sketch in terms of, like, being a little racially insensitive at times on his stream. Maybe it's a Russian thing, who knows? But it's like, with him, he to me is like a very deserving member of the Hall of Fame. Even now, like I said, without a major, this is our Dan Marino. This guy's been there. He's one of the best. There's not much more from a gameplay standpoint that I would have to see from him. I want to see him win a championship for him, but not because he needs that to be one of the best of all time in Counter-Strike.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I'm trying to think of other active players then, because like I said, those are really the two. I think you could almost...
I'll give you a couple actives that I think also would be either right there or automatic ends, right? I think another automatic end is Device.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much conversation that can be had around Device. He's the MVP of the most winning team of all time. Like, what more do you need? So I don't really want to sit on him and discuss him, because I think we can both agree that he's in.
Yep.
I do want to talk about the Brazilian side, because they obviously had their own dynasty as well. And we don't have any of them going in today, partially because none of them are retired. So that also helps the scene, except for like FNX was there for,
But he's not getting in.
you know, if FNX, you'd be surprised. Look at his stats. It's actually insane. The dude is like, well, he was top 20 once, but his overall like rating and all that is fairly good. But yeah, FNX is not getting in. Okay, so we both agree there, but he's a very good player.
Very good.
Fallen and Cold Zero. Do they both get in when they retire immediately? I don't think there's any doubt that we can almost say they're both probably getting in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like
I think they would both get in. This one I'm wrestling with because I'm comparing them like to each other, right? I don't know if that's fair or not. Because they were both so dominant. I'm trying to think of the good times and not currently, right? Like it's difficult when you're trying to vote people into the Hall of Fame and not you got to think of their career as one and not, okay, well, what did they do for me lately? Because lately, neither of them get in, right? Like they have just been so inconsistent lately. But I think career-wise, yeah, I think they would both have to get in. I would almost give Fallen the nod just because he IGL'd for so long at such a high level that I think I would give him the nod for it. But Cole definitely has the plays.
Yeah, this is probably where, again, we differ slightly. I think they both get in. Okay, so I do give them both the nod to get in once they retire. However, I do have Cold ranked above Fallen, although Fallen was a godly IGL for a period there. I don't know if anybody else has done this, but Colzera was back-to-back number one, you know, for 2016 and 2017. He was rated the number one player, and I'm looking. I don't think anybody else has those honors. Oh, Get Right does. We'll get to him in a moment. But yeah, I mean, Colzera, two-time major winner, two-time major MVP, 2 times number one in the world rankings. A little bit of a dip this past year. I think that whole phase team, though, is kind of rebounding nicely, and they're looking a little bit better. So, I think both of them would probably get the nod off of those rosters. I think Fur is the one that you would probably throw into a little bit more discussion because his contributions were so high, where I think Taco we probably would never really discuss, although the only one that found like success outside of that roster when he went over to Liquid.
Right. Also, he's just drawn the short straw of being entry fragger so many times for him. Like, I'll give him some benefit.
Maybe we
got to
acknowledge those entry fraggers at some point.
Right.
And some of them do find their way in for being amazing at that, but it's hard to like be like, hey, you're in first ballot right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Brazilians will be well represented when this thing is all said and done.
So here's another one then, because Cardinal brings it up in Twitch chat, and we actually brought him up in the pre-show. And that's Kenny S, currently still playing for G2, obviously. Has random streaks where he looks like old Kenny S and everything there. And old Kenny S, don't be mistaken, was dominant. He's been in HLTV's top 20, 5 different times? Stretching across since as of late of 2013 to now. Now, the last time he was in the top 20 was in 2017, which aligns with about what you would think, right? If you're kind of newer to Counter-Strike in the last couple of years, you would never have... You don't know what prime Kenny S looks like. You don't know Team Envy Kenny S, which is like when he peaked.
Yeah, and like also like pre-op nerf, you know, Kenny S. Like they changed a weapon in the game because he was so good with it. Like it was literally the Kenny S nerf is what they did. I think it's just interesting to kind of, instead of 100% purely focusing on Kenny S in this situation, that whole French scene, like who is going to be the representation from the French side? All of them are still active as far as I know. Except for one, Happy is not active on a team. And I think Happy has a great shot to get in because he was an IGL, 2-time major winner, 1-time major MVP, has one of the most iconic plays in Counter-Strike history with his I believe it was a Deagle ace on Inferno with that hold and Semler yelling, like it still just kind of rings through my ears. I hear it happening. Um, but yeah, I think Kenny to me will be in the Hall of Fame. He's got his major. He was the MVP of that major, consistently in the top 20. And kind of what I talked about in Skadoodle's sense is when I think of Kenny S, I think of, if not the best, one of the best operas in the world. Right.
Yeah.
And again, the game changed because of him and how he played. And even now, watching the G2 team, it's nice to see Kenny S kind of performing at that level because this team's hitting strides again. So we talk about longevity, right? He's been in HLTV's top 20 basically since 2013. And here we are in 2020, and he's still holding it down. So in his case, longevity is going to help him too.
Well, I think it's also for Kenny S, for me, I like seeing that you can make it, if you do roster hop, that you make it work on multiple rosters.
Yeah.
Right? I like seeing that. I like seeing that you weren't just a product of your surroundings, which I think is kind of where we got with Keo, right?
Yeah.
I like seeing that you can go from NV to G2 and still make it work and survive the French shuffle and still be here to this day, where Happy can't say that, right? He was with the roster. Why am I blanking?
Envy?
No. Zywo's
After
team.
Envy? Oh, Vitality?
Vitality. I wanted to say Valorant, and I'm like, I know it's not Valorant. Vitality, and he was booted from there for whatever reasons, right? So I would give Kenny S, if you're looking at active players from the French scene, the nod when he decides to hang him up. Happy, you're retired. Not this year. Not this year.
Has a chance to get it. And I think NBK is another one of those guys that when it's all said and done, you know, could find his way in because of also what he's done for the game and the scene. So the French will also be well represented, but these guys are hanging around. There's very few like CSGO French professionals that are retired that have a chance to get in right now. So, but yeah, they have a handful of good ones.
Yep. I think that kind of just leaves us with a couple now to discuss for the ins. We have Olaf and Pasha. They were for sure in. Do you want to get to your boy here? You mentioned him a little bit ago.
Tim, of course. These were fun ones to do because I thought. Oh, might have muted myself. Can you hear me right now?
Yep, I got you.
Okay, yeah. You know, I thought this would be easier to find like several people that qualified, but because of the retired in our eyes, we had to kind of mix it up a little bit here. Both of these players are still active. Both of these players are on a team, you know, right now that's competing, you know, we say at a high level, although they've very badly underperformed. But they're obvious yeses, and we're going to give them the nod today. And I want to announce them as teammates, Tim, because they really are just an iconic duo, and they couldn't do it without one another. They really are like the Jordan Pippen combo in my mind for old school CSGO fans. And that would be Get Right and Forest. Both of these guys were obviously part of that legendary NIP roster. You know, the team that won, what was it, like 87 or something straight matches and just were not losing, except for, unfortunately, you know, the majors where they only walked away with one, and neither of which, you know, got the MVP. But you talk about consistent greatness. Get Right was the other player that we mentioned earlier that was number one back-to-back years, been in the top 20 a handful of times. Forest, you think of, it's just a dominant force, like a clutch player. Forrest, anytime it was a big event, the man stepped up, you know, throughout his career. And they were there holding the top seed for so long, like so many second place finishes, unfortunately, is the only knock I think on both of them, where they have like 3 or 4 second place finishes, 1 third place finish, but they did get that one Cologne major. And I think both of these guys are incredibly deserving at the tail end of their career. So again, we know they're not retired, but in our eyes, this is more of a farewell party now for the Dignitas roster than anything else. And so, to me, easy yeses, get the gold bomber jackets, and say la vie. But both of these guys very deserving.
So let me leave you because I agree with everything you said. I think when you come to shaping, not just Go, right? This is the Go era discussion, but like these guys also shaped with 1.6, right? Like a lot of the guys that went in, Pasha, Forrest, Get Right, Olaf, these guys have all been around since 1.6. So kind of double dipping here, but I agree when it comes to shaping the game and how it's played and everything like that. Yeah, they're on Dignitas, right? But let's be real, they're retired. These are just dudes playing, having fun right now.
It's the old squad back together again, and they're having a fun run. But
so let me give you some to end it here then, that we might convince each other to put them in for today. And that's going to be Zeus and Snacks. Zeus being Navi Zeus, and Snacks formerly of Virtus Pro. Snacks has been kind of around the block a few times, right? As far as being like considered a top IGL and things like that. But I don't put him in. For me, Snacks is a no.
Today, or like you're like saying
today. If I was having to pick between Zeus or Snacks, if we were going to put someone in, I think Zeus would definitely go in before Snacks.
Because in IGL, or why do you say that?
For me, I like that you said that because you can obviously just see where I'm going with it, right? It's like I think IGLs deserve a little bit more. Yeah, but I also just think the fact that I know we have some listeners that don't agree with this. Our buddy Branderson hates the fact. But like when he went on Gambit, you saw the difference that he made, especially the year that they won the major. Like when he left Na'Vi, when he was no longer on Na'Vi, the talk is that this was just his swan song. It was Emmitt Smith going to Arizona. It was like, what are you doing? Like, this is just going to be where your career ends. And he proved a lot of people wrong and won that major. Now, I don't know if I'm going to put him in today, but I think I could see him in the Hall of Fame eventually.
So neither will get in today because we're going to have some more discussions around this because we are on kind of opposite ends of the spectrum here. So to me, I put Snacks in above Zeus. Snacks is like one of the best players in the world for a long period of time. He was top 5 HLTV for 3 consecutive years. And that's like with a major in hand, right? He also has that major. So it's not like Zeus can say, well, I have my major, you don't have one. Like Snacks was not the MVP, but he was the best player on that team for a long time. So if we're going to credit Pasha with, hey, you get in as a player and as an ambassador to the game, well, Snacks was the star on those teams. He was the guy that was, in New York, the iconic line of Sadakis, taking a bite out of the Big Apple. You think of his 4K that he had on Cubble, which a lot of matches, for those iconic matches then felt like they were played on that map for whatever reason. But he is a guy that he was just really good. Like you could rely on.
Now that I'm looking at Zeus's stats, yeah. Okay. I might flip-flop on that one then. Snacks might get in before Zeus.
Zeus has what I think is one of the best runs ever in Counter-Strike history. That run with Gambit was an iconic run. You think of the timeout that he called where they sat and spawned at the beginning of the round and kind of just wasted the round with him giving a motivational speech. Like Zeus is an iconic player in the game. It's not a first ballot for sure. Like not a first ballot for sure. I think Snacks, had we not given it to Pasha, I would have fought harder to get him in this time around. But I see Snacks joining his brother there pretty soon.
All right, so there we have it. So I think for our first, These are not, again, if I want to say, this is who we have in so far. Olaf Meister, Get Right, Forrest, and Pasha. 4 absolute legends of the game that in our eyes are pretty much retired and are on the way out. Because let's be real. Like football and all these, they have it to where it's like you have to be retired for like 3 years to be eligible. If we did that in esports, you would never have a Hall of Fame.
No.
Like these guys are always on some type of roster, whether it be just made with buddies to play or things like that. But so we can't do that. We just have to do.
And we only have 8 years of a game. We also don't have like 100 years of history to go back here. So it's also why we included 1.6 into the discussion, because we can go back a little bit more there and start to dig in and find some fun names there. But yeah, I love the 4 names, Tim. I think they were all easy picks. I think we'll get a little bit of pushback on Pasha. Like I do see that coming. There'll probably be some like, oh, how could you put him in and not, not Snacks. Let's just say that we use that name. Pasha did so much for the game.
Yeah.
Like he's getting in for a handful of reasons other than just play. And so
I think Guardian,
I'm happy
that might
with
be the
4.
one we'll want back, right? Not having Guardian in the first round, but, that's just how it be sometimes. That's how it be.
There's always round 2. I don't want to say next year because we might do this before next year.
Might do it like in a week
always,
or something.
yeah,
Always
round 2.
So let us know in Discord, Twitter, whatever, YouTube comments if you're there. Let us know what you think. Did we screw up? Should we have put someone in? Like I said, in a perfect world, we'd put everyone in, right? Like that we thought deserved it, but we kind of had to limit ourselves for entertainment purposes, right? You couldn't just be like, oh, let's throw in 10 people, because that kind of defeats the whole purpose of a conversation.
It makes round 2 a little boring when everyone gets in round 1.
Yeah, because then you are looking at Shroud and Hiko getting in, and it's like, no, I don't think that's right. So let us know what you think. If you think someone's on the fence and we didn't put them in, make your case for them. Maybe things will change. You never know. So yeah, let us know. Hit us up at The Centering on Twitter, YouTube, or Discord. So there's that. Let's get into some e-news, though, as we finish wrapping up the first ever Counter-Strike Hall of Fame. A little bit to get to here. Astralis is to skip. What does RMR?
It's like the regional major rankings.
Okay.
The road to Rio, basically.
That's what I thought. I'm like, Road to Rio, RMR. What am I missing here?
Yeah. It's like called the regional major rankings.
Okay,
but
so that's
skipping the second
calling.
round. Anticipation is that both Glaive and Zipnix are back for round 3. Like they need to push through and get the qualification. So again, Tim, it all looks like they know what they're doing. Like it doesn't seem.
You don't think anything's secretive going on here anymore? Like, come on.
No, like I bet I didn't believe it last week. I don't believe it this week. I think
the players have even said that they've they've credited burnout for being a reason on why they've underperformed recently. So I believe it. Yeah. Blast Pro finals have been set for NA. You have Liquid, MIBR, EG, and Furia. So you did see MIBR squeak in. Blast Pro EU, you got Navi, G2, FaZe, Vitality, Complexity ended up making it, as well did ENCE and OG.
Complexity went on a pretty crazy run there to get into. It was
That's
impressive.
a team I haven't heard in a while. OG?
Yeah.
Like, what have they been doing?
Not playing well in tournaments that count.
Yeah, like that's a roster you haven't heard of in a while.
Yeah.
And CoD, we discussed it a little bit. Maybe not enough. Maybe we'll discuss it coming up for the CoD weekend next episode. But Karma did announce his retirement from competitive play. An absolute legend in the Call of Duty scene. So maybe we'll hold off to talk more about that.
I'm just sad that he's not getting a proper farewell with everything that's going on. Like, I kind of wish he waited till we were at an event.
It will happen.
He deserves a send off. Like, he deserves a proper send off.
Yeah, I think it will happen. Now the issue is getting him to fly out when he no longer has to, right?
I don't know if he's 100% retired. Honestly, I think he does not like this game at all. And look, next game comes out, he loves it. gets that itch, gets a call for a roster,
Maybe
I would not be terribly
that's
surprised.
true. That last part is very true. Is if he decides to come back, he will have zero issue getting a tryout, right?
Yeah.
Maybe even skipping the tryout and getting right on the starting roster, depending on the team.
And he's young, although he has a lot of responsibility. Married and a kid. You kind of wonder if he's already has like a second plan in place, and maybe that's part of the reason for retirement.
So
but
we'll save it.
If he's just streaming, might come back.
Yeah, so
just saying.
We'll save it. We'll save it for when we talk some Minnesota next week. We'll obviously talk about him there. And that's it pretty much for COD. For Valorant, we did actually, it finished up live as we were going. T1 ended up defeating TSM, sort of, in the Twitch rival tournament. I believe they did not have
They didn't have
Hazed. So they
were
had
playing with
TSM
Myth.
Myth playing there.
Yeah.
So, again, these Twitch rival tournaments, I take it all with a grain of salt. Obviously, TSM was probably playing to win, but they weren't playing with their roster. So, whatever. There's that. Hiko, I will say we called this. I will take credit, and you definitely called it.
Signs with 100 Thieves, man.
Yeah.
New captain. It's a good signing. Like, for 100 Thieves, they're just as big on the social side as they are in like the competition aspect of of what they're doing.
It's a good signing for Hiko point of view.
Yeah, amazing for Hiko.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Cloud9 did approach Hiko, right? But the fact that he can be the guy for 100 Thieves, like being the captain.
But he's built amazing lineups before, and I think that's part of what he's good at. So I'm really curious to see who he surrounds himself with on this team, because if he has to be the star player, I have questions about how good the roster is. But if he can fill in that roster with some legitimate players that he feels comfortable with, like, I'm excited to see what this 100 Thieves lineup will be.
Yeah. Yep. I think that will be exciting to watch there. Was going to throw this in Yikes of the Week, but couldn't ruin the perfect sweep for COD. This has come up recently since Valorant has came out, but the Valorant beta cheaters are upset that they are still banned in the retail version of it.
It's amazing that
unreal. The nerve.
Stupidity.
The nerve that these guys have. So if you got busted for cheating in the beta with hacks, obviously those bans carried over to the actual release of the game. And now all these cheaters are like, well, I was just doing it because it was beta. Can I please play? And Riot's like, no.
It's hardware ID bans too, so you're like actually screwed.
Yeah, you can't just make another. You literally have to buy a new computer to play.
Yeah.
Like, why anyone thought that was going to be a good idea to cheat and thought it would just get erased? No, that's not how that works. That's not how that works at all. In FGC, the Skullgirls developer Mike, I will say Zymont, otherwise known as Mike Z, has apologized after making a bad joke. I believe it was just during a stream. He made a joke. I actually have the audio here if you want to listen to it, Anuj.
Yeah, you know what?
Let's
enjoy hearing people make asses out of themselves sometimes. So
let's
hear it.
She's gonna die, yeah.
That's suffocating, is what that was.
And still,
Suffocating.
Still.
Would it be fair to say that you can't breathe?
Yeah.
And then it proceeds with like 20, maybe 15 seconds of silence after that.
As there should be, like after a statement like that, nobody wants to be like, I'm not going to be on the other end of this clip.
So
yeah,
like I said, he's since gone back and apologized, saying like, obviously wildly inappropriate, but how dumb can you be? How dumb can you be?
Another level of dumb right now, unfortunately.
And that's what I was kind of trying to say last episode when we were talking about the whole Black Lives Matter, and obviously gaming is getting centered on a little bit because we have our own problems in the scene. I think there's a difference of like racist comments and like this, where it's just, you are stupid. There's no way around it.
Just a terrible joke. He thought he was getting a laugh from it. and it probably sounded funny in his head, and that's one of those things where it's like,
even
dude,
with your
like,
buddies.
it's a tasteless comment to make.
Yeah.
Like, that's not one of those things where, oh, he just said it to his friends. Like, it's just an insensitive comment.
Like,
to
I
make
have
right
jokes.
now,
I
at
have
any
jokes
time.
that I would only say to our group of personal friends because I know you would know it's a joke. That is something that you just wouldn't even say in general.
No.
Like, never.
A bad idea should be going off as you're thinking those thoughts. Like, this will not
Especially
go well,
since like it almost seems like he like was like he said like, oh, so it's almost like, and then he stopped. Like his brain was saying like, hey, Mike, don't say it, and then he said it. So
yeah,
I don't know what fallout. I know Sonic Fox came out and said, hey, he's my buddy, I have his back, you know, I'll talk to him, blah blah blah. So I guess if Sonic Fox can forgive and move on, then I guess anyone else should. But there's that. He's an idiot. And then we kind of talked about it earlier, but Twitch cracks down on DCMA, which is like the copyright infringement rules for those who don't know. And a lot of streamers are getting temp ban, permaban, whatever, strikes on their accounts for playing music that they shouldn't be playing.
Some of these guys are having to delete all their history right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a little surprised that it took so long to happen, because
this stuff came out
there's
years
like
ago.
Yeah, but these are like always kind of been the rule. Like, if you've ever been on YouTube, you know how strict it is, right?
Yeah.
So to think that there are videos made of this and it's like you're playing whatever music you want, like, I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner. Probably have a lot of lawyers just kind of farting around right now with all of, you know,
People got a lot of time on their hands.
Little extra time. Twitch is really big, really popular at the moment.
Yeah.
And they probably caught on to this. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame because there's going to be a lot of content that's going to be deleted forever unless they're like storing it personally for themselves. But I mean, I know streamers that play music nonstop. It's just their Spotify playlist, you know, like, yes, you have an account. You don't have a business account to share that media, though, unfortunately. And so,
and I get the streamer's argument too. It's like, look, I'm not making money because I'm playing this song in the background. I totally get that. But for anyone who grew up in the 90s with Napster and LimeWire and Pirate Bay, the music industry doesn't care. Like, they've always been pretty stingy about their copyrights. So
I could see artists making deals with Twitch now. Be like, hey, they can play my music. Like,
well,
pay
you
X
know,
amount.
Facebook Live actually has a setup to where if you're a partner with Facebook Live streaming, you can play copyrighted music. So there must be something there that artists get a little cut from Facebook, I guess. I have no idea, right? But Facebook Live does have a setup for that.
Get ready for a lot of generic EDM music.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the other thing, like Monster Cat, right? That's why we play Monster Cat in the background at the start of the stream and stuff, because that's all free. So you can do it. I mean, that's most of the stuff we play on this show is completely copyright free for that exact reason. When we first started the show, we would play actual music to start the intro and everything because we were on radio. When I worked at the Ticket, you can do that because the station pays licensing and all that. Well, then when we would upload it to YouTube, and that's when you get the strike, and obviously YouTube doesn't care that. It's like, well, it's not worth it. So you just play copyright. Speaking of copyright music, copyright free, the outro. Because that will do it for this episode of The Center Ring. It's episode 245. Appreciate it if you were in Twitch chat. If you listened all the way through. If you skipped around, love you all the same. We will be back Wednesday night to record Thursday's episode. So be sure and get in the live chat as we're doing so. Gonna be previewing a little bit of CDL Minnesota because it's a big one. Can't get away without talking about it. All top 5 teams in the league will be there.
Sorry.
I knew you were just listening to K-pop.
No, it just popped up when I opened it up. There was a previous video playing. Saw a text and I hit play. A bad idea.
Sorry, it's just the outro. Just the outro. Now we're gonna get striked.
Yeah, there it is right there.
That's how we lose
that
the
was
show.
it.
That's how we lose the show. Anyways, we'll be back Thursday if Twitch doesn't kill the show. thanks to Anuj, or if he doesn't have a baby by then. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I'm Tim for Anuj. We'll see ya. Perfect. All right, Cardinal. Yeah, nifty first ballot. I don't know. The NA side of the Hall of Fame was,
A little tough.
I mean, honestly, like Skadoodle might be the best chance for anyone in NA to get in, and that's not saying much.
I can't even think of a young player that I could be like right now is in.
Stewie?
Is he in right now? What like?
I don't know. I'd have to look at his stats. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's your first time watching on Twitch? Yeah, so typically after shows, we'll hang out for like 10 minutes or so, just shooting the shit as I upload the episode and stuff. Unless our wives yell at us that we got to get off. We normally chat.
I would have liked. I would have liked to have included an NA player. I just didn't.
But none of
think
them made
anyone-
sense. We'd just be forcing it. Like
Yeah.
Stewie, I think, would be the closest one.
Let me pull up his stats. I don't know.
Or maybe
I
a
don't know that.
Liege, if you were just kind of
A Liege might have a better chance than
But no major?
Stewie, but Stewie has the major under his
Yeah.
belt, which is like Stewie's never been a top 20 player ranked.
No.
Never.
What? How?
Let's see Elise. Elise has been ranked top 20 several times. Elise has been top 20 3 times. And he was number 4 last year. He's like gotten better.
Yeah. What about Nitro?
No. I couldn't put Nitro in. That would feel like I was then like Zeus would be a guaranteed lock.
Yeah. Tarek, I don't think is a lock either, though.
No.
Like Cardinals
he's
in
not.
chat, Tarek. I don't know if Tarek would be necessarily a
I don't
lock.
think because Tarek's also he's got the major MVP under his belt, so that's going to be his kicker. But he's also never been a top 20 player like ranked. So like they had one of the best runs, like it was a historic run, but the consistency of the NA side is pretty rough. Like Tarek's been he's been third a few times in majors too. I guess that kind of helps him a little bit, but I feel like if you can't get at least ranked top 20 at some point in your career, it's going to be hard.
Yeah, because after that, it's just, like you said, it all chalks up to you had a nice run. Like Liquid when they won those 4 events and won the Grand Slam, whatever. It's
Yeah.
like, that's cool, but do you get Hall of Fame because you made one good run? Probably not.
Let me see here. Some NA guys.
I really don't think there. I don't think there is. I think
Dude,
you're
for
better
top
off.
20 players for NA. 2014 had the first one, and it was just one. It was Swag.
I think you're better off
20
getting more NA sides on 1.6 than you do EU. Or,
Yeah, for sure.
like, there's a lot of NA 1.6 players.
2015, just one NA player, Skadoodle. 2016, no NA players. 2017, Elige, only NA player. 2018, Automatic and Elige, only NA players. And then 2019, Ethan, Breezy, and Elige. Twist is technically, he's Canadian, but same thing. Yeah, very few like NA players have been dominant in CSGO. Like actually dominant. Like I would say Elige is probably the closest to being consistently really good.
What do OS players like JKS and AZR have to do to get in? Not be an OS player. They just have to get out of the oceanic pool of teams. The
Like-
issue with like Australian players or just the oceanic side, I will say, is for a lot of them, unless you were like Renegades or Greyhounds or, something like that, very few of them, I will say, like the only time we see them is in like a major tournaments, right? Because it's like they get the invite or they have the room to invite them. So that sucks for them.
JKS has the best chance out of any of them, but it's got to continue on his path. Like, he finally broke top 20, so he's got a chance at some point, but it would have to be like, okay, your next few years need to be really good. It can't be like, oh, he had a good off year in 2019 and now he's in. Because then you would think like, oh, like somebody like Rops, if JKS is getting in, that means like somebody like Rops is 100% getting in right now, which I don't think is like the case,
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't just be like, well, we have to get an Australian player in. It's the same thing with NA, right? You can't just have it in to say, well, you have an NA player. It's kind of like,
yeah, they live in NA now. They're like playing for 100 Thieves,
Yeah.
so they're out in California at the moment. So they'll probably be in more events and all that playing in NA. I think there's a likelihood like the next round you would not see an Australian or potentially an NA player, if I had to guess, in our next round of doing it. I think of names right now that I'm like, they're not retired, but like, your JWs. Like, JW makes 100 times better case than like any of these guys, Crims even, like such a great case for somebody like Crims, Flusha, like that whole freaking Fnatic lineup really had some legendary players. Shocks, we didn't even talk about him. Shocks have been one of the best for a long time. Shocks has never won a major though, right?
I don't think so. He might have been on one of the LC.
Oh yeah, he did. He did.
Was he on the LC whatever team when they won?
LDLC. Yeah.
LDLC. But he did not. He wasn't on Envy when they won, right?
No.
No, he wasn't one of the guys who made the switch.
A lot of players up for debate. They just need to get a little closer to retiring. Like, in my eyes, I wouldn't say like Shocks is, in my eyes, retired. Like, he's not close, Kenny S, same thing. Like, they're so active right now. Obviously, JW and these guys, like,
yeah,
they have to fall off.
Yeah. Yeah, especially like Shocks. He still has a chance being on Vitality to potentially make a major run.
Yeah, same thing with G2, like these guys are all in play right now.
All right, Cardinal. Oh, you're Arcus on Discord. All right, bro. Well, cool, man. Thank you for stopping by. We'll talk to you later.
Awesome, bud. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. It's good CS discussion.
Something different to talk about than just these one-off events that I just don't.
Yeah, like the
care
Blast
that
Pro
much.
qualifier event. Like,
It's like, talk to me when we're in the finals.
Yeah.
I don't care.
That's what I'm
about
saying. That's why I'm ready to get back to normal, to have NA and EU back in the same pool. Because the
Yeah.
NA tournaments, man, they're just
boring as shit, dude.
just not entertaining.
No.
They're not.
All right, let me go see what the wifey's doing.
All right, bro. I wish we had a video. I wish we had a video editor that could take that whole segment to chop it up to make it short and like sense,
Like a fun YouTube video
Yeah.
out of it. Yeah. Send it to Mike for Envy. Be
Yeah.
like, hey,
Hey man, can you do this for us?
can you do something fun for us?
What, Tavik?
Yo. I don't have the thing open. I just closed out all
Oh,
the logs.
all right. Tavik is in chat. He says big red arrow. I don't know what that means.
There's probably some hipster shit that I'll never know.
Something young kids say nowadays.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah, I got on Valorant. There was a 5-stack. We actually had 6 people, and it was like, thank God we didn't launch, because as soon as me and Funk got into a bomb rush, spike rush, Shep like woke up. So I was like, thank God I didn't launch into like a 45-minute match.
Yeah.
Oh, for the thumbnail. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I have no creativity when it comes to YouTube. So, anyways, I'm gonna kill the stream so I can edit the show and get that up there. And yeah, we'll see. It's already 11:15, so I'm probably done for the night. But later, homies.